Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
We definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together.
Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. Hi, I'm Shelly.
And this is Lisa.
And we have a guest.
Oh, and I'm Maria Johnson.
We are so thrilled to have our friend Maria Johnson. And Maria, you have the distinction of being the first guest of ours who has been back for an encore.
Wow.
A second act, you might say.
A second act.
But I'm pumped. I'm bringing you on as my publicist.
There you go. We're part of your hype team. So Maria was on
the big fan club.
She was on episode 23, Our Friends the Saints, way back in October of 23. And now today Maria's back with us to talk about our beautiful second act. And in relation to her new book that's coming out, A Beautiful Second Act, Saints and Soul Sisters Who Taught Me to Be a Badass / Age with Grace. And welcome, Maria.
The badass is crossed out.
It is crossed out, but I still had to say it.
You guys, I'm so happy to be here. The problem with podcasting with friends is that it always turns into I don't know. I think the last episode was like that.
We can be serious. We can totally be serious.
We need to.
I will be serious.
Okay.
Being serious means I sit up straight in my chair.
Being serious means you're the teacher again.
Oh, no.
No me gusta.
Oh, wait. You've moved on from that. You're in the second act.
That's right.
I think I am. I couldn't let go of it. So I was eligible to retire maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And when the college went over to online during the pandemic shutdowns, they shut down online. They shut down face-to-face instruction, and I had written the curriculum for the online courses that I used to teach, and somebody else was teaching them and didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how to do online teaching. They didn't know what to make of asynchronous teaching. Like they thought that they could just go and do a lecture and move on. And it was like, no, online in this particular college is made for people who are working. So anyway, it was a mess. And I was brought back as an adjunct. And I did that for probably a year or maybe 18 months. And I told my husband, I said, no.
And were you then training the teachers, like teaching, what do you call it, training the trainer?
No. I stepped in. It was kind of like a little emergency thing. We don't have anybody that can do this. Can you do this? And then we'll buy us time to find somebody to do it.
So that just affirmed that you needed to be in your second act.
No kidding. Man.
So why don't you share with us, what is a second act? What are we talking about?
Well, a second act, I think that there was, now that I think about it, I'm mortified to think that there's a J-Lo movie called The Second Act, which is...
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think we know that, though.
Let us not promote it. But a second act is I think when you enter into, I think, a different career or a different, maybe expression of your vocation, new opportunities, and most of us, I think, associate second act with what happens post-retirement, right? And in that case, that's really what's happening for me. I've been able to dedicate myself exclusively to writing and being an editor at CatholicMom.com and writing books like A Beautiful Second Act. And do I have to do the product placement? And
so, wait, I have this one, my badass Book of Saints. That's yours too.
I should have gone and gotten my other one. I have Supergirls and Halos hands.
There you go.
You are my hype girls.
I tell you, we're your biggest fans, Maria. I think you were one of the first people to welcome us into the fold of, hi, we're new here and all this Catholic writing and podcasting. And you were just like, come on, I'll show you the ropes. Let me introduce you.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. We all need a godmother.
Yes. A fairy godmother.
I do like, and in those days, the community was very, it was very tight, I think, and very
It was.
welcoming.
It was smaller.
It was a lot of fun.
I'm not dumping on the fact that it's so much larger now, but it's beautiful that it's so much larger, but it's harder to get to know each other and all of that because there's so many more people, which is amazing. But we got to see you just recently, actually, in Boston.
That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Nice to see you in person.
In Easton. Yeah. Well, the three of us. Lisa, do you write for Catholic Mom on a regular column? Shelly, do both of you? You guys, I think that you dropped off. We all kind of drop off. Yeah.
I'm kind of irregular at the moment. Yeah.
You're irregular, but Shelly is regular. On a quarterly or regular monthly?
She's
I'm on the monthly.
Yeah.
Now I've missed a few, but I'm on the monthly plan.
Well, we take hiatus. Actually, I took a big hiatus too. And you know what? That's part of what the second act things are. It's that life presents us with different opportunities, sometimes challenges, push us or pull us in different directions. And I was recently talking to somebody about the book because I was kind of pitching it to them as like, oh yeah, when you hit that empty nest era, when you look at how close retirement is and you start thinking about what the next thing is, but really it applies to any woman or any person who is perhaps facing a challenge or facing some kind of big shift in their life, and it becomes a second act. It becomes an opportunity to, so many saints have said it. I want to attribute it to St. Francis de Sales, but I've heard it from so many, to begin again. To begin again.
Great way to look at it. I know that when I started reading it, especially the intro, I really identified with so much of it because, well, my youngest went off to college. I'm pseudo empty nesting, but we moved. I feel like this last year for us has been kind of planning on this big change, this having no one in high school anymore and moving and all of this. And so I very much identified with, okay, now what? You have all of these, opportunities, and people are just throwing things at me. Well, you should do this, you should do that. And I'm like, I don't know yet. And but I love that I have the opportunity to change and to do something different and to kind of figure it out. And I'm trying to go slow about it, much to the chagrin of a lot of my friends who are trying to get me to do all the things.
Well, it is kind of a stressor. I had a really incredible moment not too long ago with my cousin. He was visiting. They were traveling to New York and stopped here for a couple of days, and kind of took a look at the lay of the land. We just finished the adjustments that we needed to make in the house to make it accessible for my husband and a couple of other things. And we have like this kind of sprawling footprint in the house. It's not a huge house, but it has. Remember when it was open concept all the time, and now they're kind of going back to having the little rooms. So we're kind of back. It's an old house, so it's not a readjustment. That's the original house. And I just found my little corner that's my little space, and John has his little space, and then we'll meet in the kitchen or we'll meet in the dining room or whatever. But it's really neat to find myself kind of exploring this kind of not being in a silo, but being having my space. Right? Virginia Woolf says every woman needs a room of her own, and
I love that.
And I'm kind of back in that right now, and it's pretty cool. But at the same time, he challenged me with, "What do you want to do now?" Ladies, let me just say that after 40 years of marriage, and a good 25 of those being completely committed to the activities of my children and raising them with my husband and doing those things, and then that next era of where I was, really deep into my work, I found myself not knowing what I want to do. I don't know. And I think it's okay. I don't know what's next, but clearly writing is my second act. But that question of what are you going to do? I don't know if I have another. I need to launch this book. I don't know if I have another book in me. What are you talking about?
Oh, and see, this weekend I thought for sure you had another one in the works. So I'll tell you about that offline, I guess.
Okay, yeah, do it. But these second acts are these opportunities to embrace something new. And the thing that I really like about this book is that, number one, I feel that I have found some interesting, accessible women who, did some cool things. I love Hedy Lamarr because I remember watching the movies with my mother. But here, let me cheat because I gotta get these women right. No, really.
I like that. Let me cheat.
Let me cheat. I wrote the book. That doesn't mean I remember what's in it.
I'm glad to know other people think that.
but like Marie Curie is in it. Grandma Moses. Dolores Hart. You guys know who Dolores Hart is, right? She's the woman who kissed Elvis Presley and then became a nun. And then became a nun.
Yeah. So how did you find these women?
They found me.
You say that all the time. Come on, give us an example of how they found
me. Listen, no kidding. Okay, so the Incredible Women. I subscribe to like those women empowerment social media accounts that give you like histories of women who do extraordinary things. And ever since Badass, I have been gifted books about women empowerment. And so I have plenty of books about that. But the saints are the ones that I really want to talk about. And they really do find me. They really do find me. And in this book, I don't have, let me see, I've got Servant of God, Elizabeth Lesueur.
Who I'd never heard of before. I think Lisa said she did, but
she keeps popping up for me.
Okay, so that's how the saints find me. When I see a saint that keeps coming into conversation, that keeps popping into my social media feeds, that I keep encountering in random places, like in a conversation with somebody, I'm like, this saint wants to be my friend. And Elizabeth Lesueur was such a person. She and her story is incredible because, first of all, she died in her late 40s from breast cancer. So there's a lot of connections for people who maybe have suffered in that manner or with some other illness. And illness is something that's close to me. But also that she was a big journaler. And she journaled her faith because of the relationship that she had with her husband. She was married to an atheist man who, I think that they were deeply in love, but like that part of his faith, lack of faith, and her faith just was not a good match. And she quit fighting it and turned to journaling, where she expressed all of her faith into this journal. And it included praying for her husband's conversion, which was quite miraculous because when she died and he found her secret journal, which, by the way, I think it's published under that name, The Secret Journal of
There's a couple, because I was already looking to see if I could buy to learn more about her. Yeah.
And I love that because that's part of what I want with this book is that I'll find little nuggets or introduce you to some saints that maybe we don't know about. I mean, there's saints that we do know about. I talk about St. Mary Ann Cope, who doesn't get a lot of traction. She took over for St. Damien of Mulligan. Yeah. So, and she had an incredible connection to Hawaii even before he died, that she took over the leper colony, the Hansen's disease that they were serving. And I talk about St. Faustina and, but I bring up like St. Josephine Bakhita, who we need to know more about because they're just amazing saints. And the thing is that they keep popping up, and I have holy cards. People give me holy cards. My grandchildren show up with holy cards. Look at who I have here. I just got this. It is, let me see, can I put it in here?
St. Josephine.
St. Josephine.
Yeah.
And so so I've got these holy cards, and why? Why does this holy card keeps falling out of wherever it is that I put it and landing on my desk? It's because the saints want my attention. And I have to tell, am I talking too much? I have to tell you the funniest story about a saint seeking me out. it's kind of in reverse, but it was more like a validation of like, ha, I told you so. Because I also include Dorothy Day in the book. And after my Badass Book of Saints was published, I actually had a lot of people who would say, these were really amazing women. And why didn't you include Dorothy Day?
Really?
And right. And my like knee-jerk reaction is, well, because it's my book and I picked the ones that I wanted in it. But
but having read the chapter already about about Dorothy Day, you and I have the same reaction to Dorothy Day. So
is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was my response, was like, well, because, there's only 10 slots in this book, and these were the 10 women that I picked. I wasn't rude. I never did tell anybody, write your own book. But I thought it. And now I have put it out into the world. Thank you for making me say things I didn't mean to say.
We're not asking you who you were talking to. I'm sure that person will know.
No. It could be a lot of people. It was a lot of people. It was.
That's
it was
funny.
enough. It was enough.
It was me.
That
Okay, it was me.
That's funny that people were all asking you just about her.
Well, and other people, because I think that people have favorite saints. And in fact, I started a challenge. I started a challenge on my social media accounts to let me know who your women are. So I'm going to be doing that for the next, several weeks as the book launches to see if people are interested in playing along in that game. It's hashtag second act something. I forgot. Already.
Who's chasing who?
Second act challenge. Hashtag second act challenge.
Okay.
But yeah, so everybody, the thing is, and it's what I really want to invite, is that you read a book like this and you think about the women that you find interesting. And that's what I want. That's really what I want, is that I want you to think about the women who model these human virtues and these theological virtues and these cardinal virtues, so that we start to see who our companions are, who our saint companions are in our life. And it could be somebody that I introduce you to in this book, but it might very well be somebody that has always been on your heart, or that shows up on your social media feed, or that has holy cards that fall out of random books, or it's kind of like that scene from Bruce Almighty, where he's yelling at God on the highway and saying, "Send me a sign," and the sign says, "Turn around." "Send me a sign. Stop. Don't go any further."
Or an email while you're in adoration yelling at the.
That's right.
Which you mentioned in this book. Just so if you want that story, go get the book and read it.
That's right.
And then, so we won't talk about that here. We'll tease it.
Good.
My question is, how did you pair these women up?
So
that's a good question.
It is a good question. I actually I started with the interesting woman that I wanted to talk about. So I wanted to talk about Hedy Lamarr because a lot of people don't know that this Wi-Fi that we're using today, this technology and the Bluetooth and everything that we're using today, is a result of her work that she did in her second act, because she was an inventor, and she invented some kind of hopping technology for signals to be able to move through. But I also really wanted to tell my story of having played basketball my entire life. And I want to get her name straight. It's Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt, who was the famous basketball nun from the NCAA playoffs a few years ago, who was praying. She was the mascot, I guess, for the Loyola basketball team. And she was, I think, 100 years old when she was doing this. And this woman had like 5 acts in her life. And I think she's still alive. She might be like 104 now.
Oh, my gosh.
But I wanted to tell her story because I grew up playing basketball. And so then I thought, oh, well, what is her human virtue? What virtue does this woman have that I want to emulate? And then I would look for, I would first have to identify what I was looking at. And then I would have to think about the saints who had who had that virtue with a sprinkling of grace that gave them lives of holiness. So that's how I would pair it in that direction. But sometimes I would have a saint that was pursuing me dramatically, like Dorothy Day. And then I would just give in and say,
take
okay,
another look at me.
okay, Dorothy, you're in. And then I would have to do that. I would have to do that activity in reverse. See where I knew I could identify what the cardinal virtue was, or what the theological virtue was in this saint or saint in the making, and then work backwards. Well, where's the human virtue in that? Where do you have some quality that is good enough for you to want to develop with holiness and grace, and then I would work backwards, and then I would find the person that I matched with them. So that was the process, and it was a lot of fun, because the minute that I let people know that I was thinking about another book, of course, everyone sent their recommendations for saints, and that was a sure way to get me to not include the saint.
Until holy cards started dropping out.
Until holy cards started jumping out. So don't send me suggested saints. That's not true. I listened to all the things, but that's how I did it. But that's how.
Okay, now I have to ask: visionary leaders who were unafraid to kick butt and take names. Okay,
that's a great title name. Is that in my book?
Yes, it is. Chapter 3. Okay, so you've got Queen Liliuokalani, which I thought was interesting, but then you followed that with Saint Olga of Kiev, who I've never heard of. And knowing that you threw in a Game of Thrones reference, which I've never seen the show, but I got that it must be very violent and intensely barbaric, just from the description. Okay, how did Saint Olga find you?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I can kind of get the pairing her up with the queen, the last Hawaiian queen, and that was a great moving story. But come on.
She literally kept coming up in my feed.
How? Were you Googling Game of Thrones?
No, I never even watched it.
Women on a rampage.
No.
Because that's what she was. I mean, until her conversion. But women, you mess with me?
She was an angry woman.
Yeah. I liked reading about her story, just because there's a lot of stories, about saints who lived crazy lives before their conversions. But I've not run across her. So I really she's a new one for me. So I really enjoyed that.
Something else.
Because that was crazy.
It's really something else. And I kind of just put together her little bio in the book from the various sources that I encountered with her. So, there's a lot of legend in there. Who knows how much of that is actually factual, but I think a good deal of it is. So St. Olga was a murdering, enraged woman who wanted to, who effectively did get revenge for her husband's death, murder. And then she had this wild conversion. So I got a little bit of flack about that. How could you include somebody so violent in there? And I go, well,
she had a fabulous second act.
She did have a fabulous
Go
second
read the
book. I won't give away who her godfather was. But
no, don't tell.
I won't do that. But yes, so her story was very compelling. I mean, you have to look at some of these stories and look at what the circumstances were in the times in which she lived. It was a very violent first act for her life. But I feel like that was the time in which she lived.
The 900s, by the way.
Where you had to, if you wanted to grow your kingdom, it was done by overthrowing another kingdom, and that was not done with a handshake. And but her story is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
That was for whatever reason. That's the one that really stood. I mean, there are others, but that was the one that stood out to me. I think because of all the action and then the profound conversion. That was, again, you're telling us how you make the sausage, that these women come to you and you're trying to match them up. But now, even just knowing that they're coming to you like that, it's still kind of mind blowing that they fit in so perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I should have been a spin doctor in another life. You know, you have to find the thing that we all have in common, all of us, whether we're holy saints on earth that have been canonized, or we're some of these crazy women who are not necessarily Catholic, by the way, some of the exceptional women that I talk about. We all have the same. We all have our human dignity. We are all unique in the world. We all have been put on this earth for some mission, whatever that is. I don't know that we will know what it is on this side of heaven, right? But we all have something that God has created us specifically for. And so once you look at it from that angle, then you can start finding what the human connections are. You know, like I feel that we have more in common with each other than we have difference. And that's really a place of hope and a place to understand each other, you know, in the human relationships. So when I tell you that I think it's easy to pair these, like if you throw here's a test. At the end of the episode, throw two random people together at me, a saint and a woman, and I will write a piece to accompany it for you.
Okay, challenge accepted.
Yeah, I knew you would. I knew you would, because I think that we really do. We have, and once you start talking about women of faith, you know, it gets even easier to do.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's me being really, really audacious, but I really strongly believe it.
Okay, so which chapter, I would say, is your favorite? And which chapter was the hardest for you?
The hardest. I think that my favorite chapter was actually Olga.
Perfect.
And the hardest chapter was the Dorothy Day one, because for two reasons. Number one, because I paired her with a living woman, Helen Alvarez, Dr. Helen Alvarez, who's a professor, and then Dorothy Day, because I had this contentious relationship with her, you know, a reaction to her. And the thing with Dorothy Day is not that I don't think she's admirable, is that I misunderstood her. And I let that bias inform the way that I responded to her instead of actually getting to know her. And when I read her book, The Long Loneliness, I was like blown away that it just each one of my objections to her just kind of fell apart. And a lot of it has to do with how I was raised. And I do go into it in the book. And it's a little, I think it was hard to write because I'm pretty vulnerable in that I'm expressing that I have this bias. But growing up in a Cuban American environment where there was still a lot of, you know, in the 60s, there was still the Cuban refugees who came in the 60s, came with the hope that things would be straightened out in Cuba and they would return. So there was no real sense of permanence in that migration. It was a safe haven until the violence from the communist revolution blowed over. It just never blew over. And so many of us, accepted. Well, me, I was just an American from the get-go because I was so young when I came. But even my parents embraced the United States and they embraced everything that was American. And as a result, I didn't grow up with a lot of when we go back or Cuba or, you know, there was a lot of heritage that of course was imbued, but the sense of permanence in the United States was also a part of my upbringing. But in their circles, I would hear these great debates about communism, and I would hear world events being discussed. And in the United States at the time, in the 70s, the farm workers in California were boycotting a lot of stuff, and the Catholic worker movement was still very much, which was founded by Dorothy Day, which was co-founded, and so there was a lot of they're communists conversations. So that's the bias that I grew up with. So as an adult, I was not interested in pursuing anything. People would talk about her, and people speak about her quite often. I mean, she is worthy of sainthood for sure. And it was in writing about her and in writing in this book that I was convicted in her, in her holiness. She never started a day without a word.
Yeah.
And here I was thinking that it was social justice that was her impetus. No, because she started the day off with a rosary and with mass, or mass and a rosary, that she started off with the source and summit of the faith. That then the execution of that belief was the social justice part.
I liked that chapter. It helped me think of her differently also.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
so
and I had never heard of, who was it you started that chapter with? Alvarez.
Dr. Helen.
Dr. Helen,
Alvarez, yeah.
Right. And so I loved that. And I think the quote you put in there was she did the top 10 list from David Letterman, or in a David Letterman style.
Yeah.
And then she got to number 4, be a true disciple first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was something to really, I think, take. If I'm reading this with my small group, or if we get to this chapter, that question there, what does that mean? Be a true disciple first. And that's a whole nother episode, podcast, whatever. That's a journaling question.
It is. It is.
And I bet that changes throughout your life. So being a disciple when you're graduating college, or getting married and having your children, or changing careers, or even retiring, whichever act you're in. I think that, I know you titled this one Second Act, but I really think this stretches across all ages of people, not just women, who are experiencing these changes at whatever age or stage they are.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because it's true. When you sit down to write something, you think, well, who's my audience? Well, I'm my audience. Women who are like me is the audience. But in the course of conversations leading up to the book launch, and I hope, even following that, is that opportunity for growth in whatever season of life you're in. I think that this book is probably inspiring as much for a 20-year-old as it is for a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old or a 30-year-old who really is stuck in the sandwich. I think I start off in the book talking about, being sandwiched between launching my children and having concerns for my parents. And I've already lost my dad, and my mom has dementia. And so what does that look like? And what is that care? And I'm going to say it here first, but I think that I'm going to be writing about this very soon. How we are living in a time where my feet are here, but my heart is somewhere else. When you have kids that are grown and away from, off in their careers and their lives, and maybe they moved away, and my feet are here, but my heart is somewhere else, especially if I know if they're struggling. If they're celebrating, I wish to be, united to that celebration. But, I'm living here, taking care of my husband and being present to, my children and grandchildren. And, my mom's in another city. My feet are here, but my heart is somewhere else. And so I think that gives, we're all in different. I mean, it's life. We break it down into seasons, but it's really just this kind of fluid movement. So yeah, I love that you pointed that out. I think it is a book for anyone.
I think it will resonate, especially with women, in that it's just a lot of changes. We always find ourselves in things changing. And so I loved, me in book groups, I loved that you included reflection questions at the end of each chapter. And I know CatholicMom.com is starting March with a book group, online book group based on your book. But I do hope to use this book for my book group that meets in person. And I do encourage our listeners to, if you have a book group or you have a group of friends, to get it and read it together, read it and talk about these. Because I feel like you put a lot of thought into your questions. And when I was when I was reading it on my own and I hit a question and I was like, oh, that's a really good one. That's, like that's deep. And what I love about doing
30
it in
years
group,
of curriculum writing.
Yeah. But I'm trying really hard to finish this book this weekend before we talk to Maria.
That's right.
So
I can't.
I'm going to put a pin in that question. Have to come back there.
Well, for me, I almost
Journal
thought a lot
prompts
of them are
for
journaling.
the next 3 weeks.
That's right. They're journaling questions. But also when you do it in a book group, what is fascinating to me is the similarities that you'll find amongst your friends, your women, but then also how everyone takes it differently and just what you can unpack and grow even more from how they took that chapter or that question. And it just, I don't know, it just makes it, the response to the book for me internally is just exponential when I share it with friends. And so that I want to encourage people to get it and then share it with your friends and break it open, because I think it'll just be even better.
Oh, thank you. And I think I'm going to be writing a broader study guide that will be downloadable at the Ave Maria Press website.
Oh, yay.
Oh, that'd
So
be great.
I don't know if you go back into episodes and add to show notes or anything, but I'll probably make that available as soon as it's done. I haven't written it yet. It was just discussed. No, I mean, that's what happens, is that people start asking for things like that.
Yeah.
T-minus.
Yeah.
Oh, we're done.
You let us know.
I meant if you've got all this writing to do. And I was like, it's not done yet, but hey guys,
she's like, get on it. Come on, Maria.
I didn't mean we needed to stop talking.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
We got all day.
Yeah. So they're going to do that, and I think it's cool because I think after the fact, I did one for the Badass book too, because people ask for it, and nothing makes a writer happier than to know that something like that has resonated with the readers. So yeah, I humbly say it's coming soon.
I love that. When I read your intro, and I told you this before we got on, that I really identified with the whole. You quoted C.S. Lewis, and you said you were not complaining, but sharing with your friends. And you thought of the C.S. Lewis quote that says, "What? You too?" And that's how I feel a lot of times, that there's so many of us have the same, maybe a little differing, but really the same commonalities in what we're experiencing, especially, I guess we're midlife. I don't know what we're at. We're post midlife now.
You're a bunch of old broads.
Yeah. But
I don't include myself in that group.
But, I have friends who are doing early retirement. Those of us who our kids are out of high school and mostly gone, or young adulting in our homes, or, it's just a huge shift in our life experiences, and or just the whole perimenopausal, postmenopausal discussions is like all these things that we're experiencing at the same times and together, but yet differently. And I thought,
and quietly, right? And privately,
yes.
Because we don't talk about it.
No.
We
whisper about it.
Yeah. You have to be in a situation where you're letting your hair down and that these intimate conversations happen. And it doesn't have to be that way. And really, I think that's why this book really sat on my heart for a few years before I even got down to the nitty-gritty of writing it. Because these were the questions that would come up, or these were the topics that would come up not in women's groups, but the fruit of the women's groups, which is, you find your people in that group, and then you kind of grow into a different level of intimacy with them, right? Where you're sharing a little bit more. And so the idea was really born at an evening. We were sitting at a girlfriend's house on the back porch, and we were having, I don't even think we were having wine. We might have been having some lemonade or something. And the conversation happened. I feel like the meat in between two pieces of bread, and everybody's chomping on me to get to the
yeah.
And there were a lot of things happening. There were a lot of physical things happening, and emotional, and when it's hard to launch your children, and it's hard to find yourself in the empty nest, not knowing what's next. And so, so this book is really the fruit of so many conversations.
I love that. And I recognize that for myself and for some of my friends and the stuff that we're discussing in the moment. Okay, so I have one more question, and then I guess we have to wrap it up. And that is, what do you wish women or any of your readers take away from this book?
A sense of companionship, that we're not alone, that we're absolutely not alone. And look at these women 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, we're doing some extraordinary things. You can too.
I love that. That's perfect. All right. So, Shelly, we have questions we ask all our guests, and Maria has been on before. So,
do we put her on the spot?
I'm going to put her on the spot again.
Yeah, this time I'm prepared.
Okay. So, Maria,
okay.
Shelly, do you want to ask?
Do you have a different sister story that you would like to share?
I have a different sister story. And this is just about connecting and having a good time.
Okay.
My sister grew up in Miami. I was a little older when we moved there. We're 11 years apart. So our relationship really blossomed in adulthood. And she's the one who is the primary caregiver for my mom. And I went down there for a week not too long ago, maybe a month or so, sometime after Christmas, maybe sometime at the end of January. And she took a day off of work, and we became tourists in Miami. And we spent the day in Little Havana. And my brother drove down from where he lives just north of us and joined us for lunch at an iconic, trashy tourist attraction lunch place. And we ordered milkshakes for lunch. And he had to go back to work, but we stayed in Little Havana, and we walked up and down the street and did window shopping, and we went to Domino Park and watched the old men playing dominoes, and all the clubs were open during the day to bring in the tourists, and so there was live music. We were dancing in the street, and it was just. I know, and we took silly tourist pictures in front of the big murals on the side. It was just so much fun. We hadn't connected like that to not have a purpose in a very long time, and it was just gold.
I love that.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that. That's fantastic. I mean, that story, that's just wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, and then the second question is and then this is going to be a tricky one. Out of all these saints and holy women and everything, but who's walking with you right now? Or who's chasing after you right now?
Who is chasing after me? I don't feel chased at the moment. I feel very well accompanied by St. Teresa of Avila, who in the first book, she is. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I've shared this with you guys or not, but I was speaking at a conference some years ago, and they had a room of people who prayed over you, that they were given the gift of, I don't know what the gifts were, but I'd never had anybody pray over me like that. And one of the things that the woman said is that she didn't understand why, and I'd never really written about St. Teresa. She says, I don't know why, but St. Teresa of Avila is here with you. And I don't know if I was freaked out at the moment, but I feel like, yeah, she's the saint that really walks with me.
That's cool.
I remember you saying that.
That was the answer before.
No, yeah. I remember you saying that years ago. You came and did a Supergirls and Halos retreat at our parish.
Oh, and I shared it there.
And you talked about St. Teresa of Avila. And I think at that time that you were like, but St. Teresa of Lisieux is starting to like knock on my door or something like that. And you gave out prayer cards. And
Shelly has it. It fell on her desk.
It's on my wall.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's St. Teresa of Avila.
Isn't that something?
And that's the prayer.
And has she stuck with you? Is she sticking with you?
I have the book, but I haven't read it all yet. So,
I want to say that was, 8 years ago?
2018.
2018. Yeah. That's wild.
Lent of 2018. Gosh, do not do the math. I don't want to do
such a long time. So Teresa has been
stuck
walking
on that
me.
frame too. I couldn't pull it off.
So where is she? I've got her with, I think it's a relic. Since then, where is she? Oh, I don't have her.
I think you drew the card of Lasue, and that's why, because Lasue is my confirmation saint. And then to get the other Teresa Carmelite, I was like,
well,
so I don't know her as well.
So here's the thing. Saint Edith Stein, right? Elizabeth, Saint, oh my gosh.
Teresa Benedicta of the Cross.
Teresa Benedicta of the Cross. Edith Stein is easier.
I say Edith.
Yeah. So, but they were all Carmelites, so I guess you go back to who was the one that was influencing them. And I think that it's that I need to, and she's not hounding me or anything. I just really, truly feel her presence every once in a while. That when I'm writing, something will pop into my mind and it's like, oh, there she is again. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because she was a reluctant writer. She didn't want to put down all of these things. And it was because of her obedience to her superior or her spiritual director that she wrote down all these things.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yep.
So
she's my girl.
Think of her every time I don't want to write, but I need to.
Yeah.
Ask for a later session.
More questions? More questions?
No.
Oh,
do you have my homework assignment for me?
Oh, that's right. Shelly. I bet Shelly thought of two women.
Think about it.
What? A homework assignment for you?
No, for her. We're supposed to give her two women, and she's going to make a connection.
Oh, I don't have them off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'll have to get
Text
back
me later.
to them.
Okay.
Yeah, get back to me on
I'll
that.
tag you on social media. I'll come up with
there we
something
go.
and tag you on social
you're
media.
going to make this more public than the podcast. Okay. That's
And then
right.
you can respond back at your leisure, within a week.
All right.
A true assignment, right?
Don't issue Shelly a challenge. She will definitely take
I
you
got to pray
on
about
it.
this one. I got to go to adoration and be like, okay, come Holy Spirit. Who should I ask Maria to connect?
Give me the most difficult people to connect to see if this woman can put her money
if
where
it comes from Holy Spirit, then he's going to talk to you too. Then you have to go to adoration and be like, all right,
I need to find a connection to Ina Garten because I should have included her in the book.
Okay, I thought of one. Okay, I thought of one.
I thought you were going to do it on
social. You know who this is? No, I'll do it on social too. You know who this is?
Yes, I do know who that is.
Okay, so this is Nanolina Antonietta Mayo. I had to look at her real name. Yeah. Okay, have you ever heard of the Little Cajun Saint?
The Little Cajun Saint?
Charlene Richard?
No. Am I going to have to do that?
Mm-hmm. Do those two. They just popped into my head while I was talking.
Uh-oh. She said, come Holy Spirit, and suddenly...
And I've had...
Why do you have Ninolina?
Because she fell out of a book.
Let me show you something.
My daughter gave her to me. I know where she's going.
Stand by.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I have?
I know what you have because I have it back here on my desk right here.
Y'all
Want
are
me to go
funny.
find it? Y'all are so funny.
Did I share this with you?
No, I bought it. I bought all your stuff.
This? Oh, no, I don't have that.
Maria, hold it up.
She just did.
I have all of your books.
You're kidding me.
No. I have every single one. I told you I'm your biggest fan.
And your daughter.
Where is it?
This is a journal. This is a journal for children.
Yes.
It's not even available. It's
Where
not
is
even
it?
available.
Oh, it is if you know how to find it on the internet.
So Shelly might be your
book available too.
When she said
I told you when I bought this
she
book.
might mean stalker.
Oh my!
You're terrible. Where is this book? I cleaned up my office. That's the problem. I straightened up the books.
That's funny.
It was sitting right there, and I moved it.
We believe you. We believe you.
Okay.
I'll find it as soon as we're done. So, oh well.
Guys are a trip.
All right.
There was another one too.
I think it's about time we wrap it up.
Okay, because we're just being funny now.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're going to do Nanolina.
Yeah, I'm gonna do Nanolina.
Yeah. My daughter brought it back from when she was in Rome in 2021 on her Rome semester.
Oh my God.
She brought it back. She had been in the Basilica Santa Croce in Jerusalem in Rome, and they had these cards out to pray for the intercession of servant of God. And I thought she looked like our grandmother as a little
That's
girl.
what I thought you were holding up too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And every time I keep this here and I keep thinking it's Granny.
Oh, that's
But it's Nanolina, so. And then Charlene Richard, she came up in the conversation on retreat. I forget who mentioned her to me. Maybe it was Tina Mayu.
Yeah,
And
probably.
I've heard of her because we have good friends who have a daughter with hypoplastic left heart syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the saint or the potential saint that they are asking for us to pray to, for intercessions for her.
Oh,
for a miracle.
we'll talk offline, and I will add that to my litany of saints.
There you go. Okay, I'm done. Lisa said it was time to go. So I'm done.
For anyone who's not watching on YouTube, Shelly is like put her hands over her mouth to keep herself from talking. Next thing you know, she's going to get like duct tape. She's going to be like, I have that in my office too.
I don't have duct tape in my office. Painter's tape, maybe, but not duct tape.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, Maria, what I'm hearing from this conversation is that we shouldn't wait a year and a half to have you back on next time.
Okay.
It needs to be more frequent.
All right. I'm on.
All right, Shelly, do you want to say goodbye? She's got her hand over her mouth.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Parting in such sweet sorrow.
Goodbye. This is the most awkward goodbye. This is like the Cuban goodbye. This is like the ethnic goodbye. Pick it. Just insert ethnicity. It takes
It's
300
a Southern
years.
goodbye.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to talk to you later. Oh, wait. Did we forget something? Let's walk out.
Walk me to the car.
Okay, I'm going to mute y'all in a second. All right, so thank you for listening. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation. And I have a feeling we're going to keep it going later on social as Maria writes her little piece about these two lovely women. As always, we hope that you subscribe, share it with a friend, and of course, pick up Maria Johnson's book, A Beautiful Second Act, Saints and Soul Sisters Who Taught Me to Be a Badass / out Age with Grace. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you, ladies. God bless you.